Hello and welcome to the Business Now Show. This is the 1st of October, by the way. We're recording this and it's episode 15. Now, we've been absent for a little while because it's my fault. I've been a guest, a customer, or shall we say a patient of our wonderful NHS for a while. But I'm back with a vengeance. Definitely a vengeance in many ways. Lying in a hospital bed after surgery with monitors beeping and tubes everywhere. It's very confusing, isn't it? You know, it forces you to have some thinking time about many things, but more about that later. So it's also a while since I chatted with my co-host, Hugh Morgan-Williams. So before I tell you what's in this episode, let's check in with him. Hello, Hugh. Much been happening whilst I've been away?
Well, I'm very, very healthy, and I haven't had any tubes or monitors. Yeah, it's been good. I have been also thinking about how we're going to make this show even more popular and even more informative. So let's get going.
Oh, excellent. Thanks, Hugh. Now, what have we got for you, our dear viewers, in this episode? Well, as I said, lying in bed, motionless in bed, watching the television when I could because of other patients making their noise, you know, and thinking, I resolved that our show, just like Hugh has said, is to be of greater value to you. And that means business owners, leaders, managers, entrepreneurs. You really are facing the great unknown at this moment in time. But as they say, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Trouble is how, where, when, what, how, when, why. That's why our shows will now be more compact and feature what we're calling Tough Talk for today. More about that when I introduce it. Either side of Tough Talk for today will be our popular items of Hugh's News and Hugh's View. So that's my cue to return to Hugh Morgan-Williams and his succinct Hugh's News.
Well, this week, Malcolm, dramatic developments in the Middle East with Trump's peace plan for Gaza endorsed by Israel's premier. The Labour Party conference provides key moments for Starmer and Rachel from accounts. And a virtual hospital is coming to a street near you. President Trump has unveiled a 20-point peace plan for Gaza, which has been backed by Israeli Premier Netanyahu. If, and it's a big if Hamas agree to it, then fighting could end in days and all the hostages released. It appears the Israeli PM was strong-armed into agreeing the deal. He had to apologize to Qatar for his raid earlier in September. Other Arab states have endorsed it, but it would mean the end of Hamas rule in Gaza, and the ideas emerged of a peace board chaired by Donald Trump and with former British PM Tony Blair, described by Trump as a good man, playing a prominent role. Elsewhere in the world, Trump's peace ambitions in Ukraine go nowhere, with increasing aerial assaults on Kyiv and more probing of NATO's defences by Russian drones and warplanes. Various prominent and knowledgeable commentators have said this week that it is a war with Russia, certainly in cyberspace, and with the increasing likelihood of warplanes being shot out of the sky. The Kremlin has warned that use of American Tomahawk long-range cruise missiles could imperil American soldiers. It's in this unstable environment that Labour has been holding its annual conference this week, with increasing attacks on reform and with ministers squirming to deny that tax rises are coming. The Chancellor's been trying to affirm we have a strong economy and that her black hole is all the fault of Brexit and the former Tory government. With business leaders warning that any further tax rises will be passed on in price increases, and with the property market in pre-budget paralysis, there is an alternative view. One idea to get hospital waiting lists down is the creation of a virtual hospital, with everyone able to book online consultations. GPs are upset about this, threatening strike action, as they fear they'll be overrun by referral requests. Others fear that this will cost huge sums of money and is unaffordable. Fantasyland is alive and well in Liverpool this week. Wait for reality to bite when MPs return to their constituencies.
Fantastic, Hugh. Let me just pick up on one element there. How long can Labour keep blaming the former Tory government? I mean, you've walked in to turn around companies in the past. You can't keep blaming the previous management, can you?
No, you can't, because I would say probably 3 to 6 months is the most you can do that for. Because if you don't take action, things continue to slide. In business, decisions are needed quickly. If you're running out of cash, you need to restock the coffers, and that can be a success, or it can be a complete and abject failure. But you know about it pretty quickly. In government, there is a tendency. I mean, the Tories did it when Labour, Liam Byrne, remember, he said, "I'm sorry, there's no more money left," in a letter to George Osborne. Well,
Yes, yeah,
that lasted well over a year before the reality bit that they couldn't blame Labour anymore. Well, I'm afraid reality hasn't yet struck Labour, and it's very convenient to blame the previous administration for the current woes. I mean, if you look at it, the overturning of the withdrawal of winter fuel benefit to pensioners. I mean, what a stupid thing that was to do, to actually hit one of your key support groups in the wallet, and then blame the Tories for it. I mean, there have been some pretty basic errors by this government. The reversal of the cuts in benefit, the reversal of the winter fuel allowance. Well, they wouldn't have reversed them if there wasn't an admission they had got it wrong. And yet all these spending plans that this government is trotting out, all paid for on the backs of business. Everybody is saying, well, why is inflation so high? I'll tell you why it's high. And that is, businesses are trying to recoup the cost of the extra national insurance they've been forced to pay, and all the extra business taxes. So the latest wheeze apparently is to charge private schools more for their inspections.
right.
Well, it's an uneven playing field, and there is the problem I see. It's the politics of envy again and again. Oh, well, they've got the money. We'll get it out of them somehow. The forthcoming increases in property taxation, we don't know what it's going to be, but all we do know is there's certainly going to be a raid somewhere on our wallets, a raid on pensioners, potentially a cut in national insurance, and then an increase in tax of PAYE. Well, actually, pensioners don't pay NI, and therefore it'll be a raid on pensioners if indeed they do that. So to my mind, it is dishonest, and it is actually
it's almost petty.
Undeliverable. It's undeliverable.
But it's almost petty, though, isn't it? Because these are little items where there's a big challenge. The big challenge is well, our productivity is absolutely abysmal compared to
and has been for 20 years.
Yes, I know. I mean, so improving productivity, these areas make big differences. Where what we're talking about is trying to save a penny here or tuppence there, where what you need to save is pounds.
Well, indeed, and I think the other problem that we've got is that everybody says, oh, well, we need growth, and yes, you do need growth, because then you wouldn't need so much tax increase. But the problem is how you get growth when the government is actually taxing the engine of growth to the extent they can't grow.
Yeah. That smacks of a lack of knowledge of what actually makes the world go round, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Absolutely. I mean, it's ignorance, and I think it's clear to me that Labour is finding it much more difficult to govern than they thought it was going to be.
Yes. Well, that's
a typical. They're terrified that their incompetence will usher Nigel Farage in through the back door.
Yeah. Let me ask about another item of your excellent news there, and that's about the virtual hospital. Now, you know a lot about NHS, having been chair of a federation, and so how realistic? I mean, I love the fact that I've got my NHS app. I have had terrific service through it just recently. I could order my meds and goodness knows whatever else. So I'm happy about it. But my 88-year-old mother-in-law isn't.
No, because she is digitally isolated. And I think that's a big issue. I mean, I had a big issue with my own surgery actually a couple of weeks ago, and they're forcing everybody to book appointments online. And I suppose I can't online. I'm good at. I want to pick up the phone and talk to a human being, or indeed come in and make an appointment. And the doctor looked at me. I actually got to see a doctor, and I suppose he's newly qualified, and he just didn't get it. He just didn't understand there were people on this planet who maybe didn't have a smartphone and certainly didn't have a computer at home. And it's unrealistic. And it's the same with banks. You know, they think everybody can actually transact things online. Well, they can't. And we're in a situation where relatively large portion of the population is being disenfranchised. I mean, my elderly sister, who's a lot older than me, is really struggling because she's digitally phobic. You know, she won't engage online. She doesn't know how to, and is terrified of it. And she's not alone. And I think it's this disenfranchisement of a section of the population, which is going to cause real problems. I mean, you know, these elderly people, and I count myself as one of them, aren't going to rise up and walk the streets because they can't. So, you know, how are they going to make their protests heard? And it's a fascinating thing. But mark my words, this new digital hospital, this new virtual hospital, will cost a bomb, because you've got to actually pay. It's going to have apparently separate medical staff, separate consultants, and all the rest of it. It'll be a new NHS trust. Well, I can see millions already appearing in the balance sheet, which is unfunded and unpaid for. Where's the money coming from?
Yeah. What worries me, though, and a lot of leaders at the moment, it's a major concern, and that's cybersecurity. I mean, just look at what's happened with JLR just recently. And that's a huge impact of 250,000 people in the supply chain with their jobs at risk because of a cyber attack on JLR. It's cost 200 million for M&S for its and the rest apparently of its cyber security. So small businesses today, and you know that's who we're talking to at this moment in time, Hugh. Their worry has got to be too much technology too quickly.
Yeah, and I think also if you are the victim of a cyber attack, you can't afford the ransom that people are paying. I mean, there was that transport company, Knights of Old, and they were subject to a hack due to one employee's carelessness, and it's finished the business.
Yeah,
you know, that's a business that was turning over 50 million. It's had something like 50 trucks on the road. That's 50 drivers, probably more, and all the ancillary and support staff. 150 people lost their jobs due to a cyber attack, and basically because the business could not defend itself. Now that's really terrible. And you know, these kids who sit in their bedrooms and play with their computers, they need to realize that it's people's lives they're affecting.
Yeah, but it won't happen like that. So we'll have to add cybersecurity and things like that into one of our upcoming Tough Talks. But it is time now for our main feature, which is called Tough Talk for Today. And we're talking today, by the way, not just tough talk in the past, because we need foresight, not too much hindsight. Today's business leaders are known as, put simply, under a double, triple squeeze. Double, triple squeeze. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, on the one hand, the triple squeeze of rising costs, staff challenges, and relentless uncertainty. And on the other hand, the triple challenge of adopting new technology, meeting regulations, and the need to keep growing. So double, triple squeeze there. Over this and coming episodes, we'll be deep diving into one of these double, triple squeezed items or their causes. Our aim is that you'll get experience guidance. And after all, between us, Hugh and I, over the years, we've faced and met most of those challenges. Won some T-shirts and then shredded a few as well. Now, Tough Talk for today is not about being nice and namby-pamby. It's about the tough get going. That's why this episode we kick off with asking you, have you got your right mindset, the right mindset to see better outcomes for your business? The onslaught of change and uncertainty today can cloud issues. Problem solving can lose focus and momentum. So it's time to be honest and see if any of the following are lacking in your mindset of actions and thoughts. So let's have a look at what we're going to be talking about today. First up, constantly curious. Are you constantly curious? So too many business leaders are shallow in their curiosity. They simply don't go deep enough in their whys, in their asking their questions of whys, and they're not curious enough about every element of the problem they face. It's almost like they're frightened to go a little bit further and ask that extra question, because it's going to bring more worries, more uncertainties. And be assured, if you aren't curious, then your team may not be coming forward with problems, concerns, or even solutions. So how curious have you been, Hugh, as a leader? Did you find that adopting the right depth of curiosity made your team think and prepare better and be more forthcoming?
I hope I did. I think inevitably sometimes that you don't know what questions to ask. And I think that's a potentially a real problem. You think you have a problem in front of you, and you've probably got some experience of dealing with the same issue because it tends to come up a lot. But then you don't ask the question, why is this issue continuing to haunt me? For example, you might have a problem in recruiting for a particular role, and staff retention might be a problem. And you don't ask yourself the question, which perhaps you don't want to because you're frightened of the answer, am I the problem?
Mm.
Or is someone else in the company a problem, which are causing these people to be unhappy and not want to continue to work for me? So there are loads of things that you can think about, and then sometimes it's difficult to ask the right question because you're frightened of what the answer might be.
Yes, yeah.
And I think that is a true. That I think is a true symptom of leadership, where you're prepared to ask the really difficult question and not be afraid of the answer.
Yeah. I find that obviously people will want to make things lovely for you when they give you the answer. A team want to make things happy. So the salesperson will say, "Oh, lots in the pipeline." I'm, and then when you start to ask the whys, then you go deep into it. Well, there may be not serious stuff in the sales pipeline.
Well, I think that's absolutely right. And then you might have the question of, well, why are my sales going down? Is it the product itself? Is it the way we're selling? Is it the fact we haven't perhaps had some good marketing ideas in the last quarter? What is it? And it's a question of actually facing these issues and coming up with answers, not being afraid to ask the question, not only of your own staff, but of your customers, and saying, are we getting it right for you? If we're not, please be honest and tell us so we can fix it.
Yeah. Now, I did mention the title was Constantly Curious, or you can have Ever Curious, whichever you want to be, because you can't just switch it on and switch it off. It's got to be constant, hasn't it?
It certainly does. I mean, I came across a guy not so very long ago, and he was having problem accessing or maintaining his overdraft, which was essential for his business. And he was terrified of actually going into the bank, well, if you can, but actually talking to his manager and saying, what is the problem? Is it you or is it me? But eventually screwed up and his courage. And he said, look, you're constantly saying no. What can I do to make you say yes? And it was that question that unlocked all the problems. They weren't big ones, but banking these days is computer says no unless there's a good reason to say yes.
Yes.
And he was able to sort of change one or two minor things, and he got the money. And it just is, it's a question of facing up to the issues and actually being prepared to ask those difficult questions and say, look, it might be me. Can you tell me where I'm going wrong?
Yeah, excellent advice there, because all too often we shy away from the hard the hard stuff, don't we? We want to stay with the soft stuff.
We do. I mean, for example, if you're turned down by the bank, oh, well, I'll go and find the money from somewhere else. That's not so easy because there must be
No.
a reason why you've been told no.
Yeah, yeah. One of the areas I just mentioned beforehand is though that all too often people want to look at focus upon hindsight rather than foresight. So just as we discussed about Labour keep blaming the Tories, it's that hindsight rather than foresight. Whereas the leader needs to be looking at foresight, doesn't he or she?
Very much so. And I think it's. I used to have a crystal ball on my desk, and I used to polish it every morning. And I used to look at it and say, now, what are you going to tell me today? Of course, nothing. But at the same
Right.
time, it did encourage you to think about what a crystal ball might be able to produce and how you might be able to get it to produce. And that way, it actually focused the mind on the real issues that you faced on that day itself. And
Yeah.
it's a gimmick. It's a complete gimmick. But it was also a talking point when people came into my office and said, "Oh, well, what have you got a crystal ball there?" I said, well, "Nothing else works."
All right. Excellent. Well, on that note, should we be coming out with some an issue where people can book a sort of séance with you and your crystal ball and Hugh?
Well, you never know. I mean, it's a joke. I always used to, well, quite often I used to get the forecast for the next year bang on within about 2%. And everybody was remarkably sort of amazed by this and said, well, how do you do it? I said, to be honest, I really don't know, but I point to my crystal ball and it gives me the answers.
Okay. Thanks, Hugh. So let's close this tough talk element by throwing it back to you, lovely viewer. Quite simply, are you being constantly curious enough and asking deep whys? A good rule of thumb, by the way, is a depth of 5 whys. A top tip here is to write down or journal your thoughts on the answers you get from your curiosity. There's so much coming at you these days that it's easy to lose track and forget that vital element, especially next time you ask your whys. Or are you curious enough? Next time, please reflect on our tough talk for today, and we'll be bringing you more issues. Now it's time for our voice piece of Hugh's view. Over to you, Hugh.
Well, where do we go from here? There's been a lot of talk and media comment these past few weeks about patriotism and displays of the Union Jack on lampposts, as well as the flag of St. George on cars and other public landmarks, like the White Horse of Kilburn, which woke up one morning this month to have 2 large red stripes applied to its flanks. One local politician said it's not a whiteboard for public opinion. So why is there a rash of flag-waving sentiment? Is it just support for our red roses and lionesses? Or is it something more sinister, a hijacking of patriotic sentiment into something much darker, a desire to cleanse our shores of anyone not ethnically British and white? Protesters are Delphic on this point, claiming their protests are merely patriotic. But that begs the question, what is patriotism and why now? I passed a farm pickup in my local town that read, "Save our farmers, save our country." That all seemed innocent enough until you saw the pickup plastered in flags, which seemed to convey an entirely different meaning. In his speech this week, Sir Keir Starmer was right in saying we need to reclaim our country for its traditional values of tolerance and decency. I hope that's something we can all unify behind.
I quite agree with you there, Hugh. You do notice, viewers, that for some time now, on the screen behind me there, the Union Jack. That's because we are patriotic, aren't we, Hugh?
Yeah, absolutely. We are in the right way.
In the right way. Yeah, British is best. Remember that. exporters. Thanks, Hugh. And that brings us to a wrap of our revived and more incisive Business Now show, brought to you by, in this case, from my point of view, the wonderful expertise of the NHS. I trust you found our new Tough Talk for Today feature of value. We'll be bringing you more like that over the coming episodes. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.